fucking Hopkins. From the titles he chooses, I see that he's on a nice journey. Before that point, they were all also dark and blacks, and now it's really changed by this one album in 21, which is called Music for Psychedelic Therapy. And then before it is dark and being in a Berlin bunker and trying to find who to fuck tonight, this kind of dun, 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 dun. And then with the album of Psychedelic Therapy, suddenly all lights. And then what I like about it is he has this continuous dance floor which I think is nice because it reminds you of those evenings you had. But it is too repetitive for me to have on in the background, and they tried to do this dance energy, and I can't have that one working. What he then did after his psychedelic thingy is he introduced softer elements, but he kept the tracks as they were. So you have a track, and then suddenly you have this angel choir that comes in, and it's like, well, this fucking thing, you forgot about God. And he does it in such epic ways when they come in and fight and have a giant battle on the sonic stage. And he's a very good producer. He can make things fly across the space and sound super fucking crisp. So you can witness acoustically the whole battle of the repetitive dark and then the thing of like, yeah, I know your experience is fucking intense, but it doesn't mean that the book is not true. And here is how. And then you listen to that thing happening in his mind, how it was for him to be in this and then be reminded of, wait, we need to structure life somehow. Things need to make sense. People need to stick to their word. What the fuck is actually happening? Oh yeah, the Jon Hopkins point that I was trying to make is that he very nice sonically have this battle between stupid, repetitive electronic stuff that I can't listen to anymore. But I love what it was. But then, of course, at some point in your life, realizing that doesn't really work. And he provided with his albums the in-between period, which no one has ever done. Because it was either, like, okay, we reorient away from the party. Okay, what actually is there? Usually people end up in jazz or classical. And like, oh yeah, music is an art. We have studied that. What did we study there? And who have learned that, they end up in jazz. And he looked at that and he was like, this distance is too big, and actually there is a giant inner process happening in the mind of the disillusioned teenage rebel, being like, fucking hell, I have a family now. Oh, this is all very real. And this inner struggle, this looking at harsh truths and being like, well, these are the decisions, this is the person I ended up with. She has a past and she has a mother. I didn't know that. But this horror, no one captured sonically before. That fight. And the teenage rebel that was like, yeah, but my ideals were pure. And the other side of, yeah, but life is fucking life. And no one cares about your ideals if you have to pay the bill and feed a child. What are you gonna do? Let it starve? To prove your point? It ends at some point. And this horror of this moment of, for fuck's sake, yeah, okay, I will just go up and go to work every morning without bitching about it. And this fight and all the different ways in which it is won or surrendered, and sorting out who will I be as a man. No one has ever tried to capture that as far as I'm concerned. And he perfectly did it in some of his tracks. And the men that were sculpted in those tracks, I was proud of them at the end. I felt I knew these people. And there was no lyrics, nothing, not a single word uttered. And all of that is created in your mind in such perfection. Wow, I have great respect for this man, this Jon Hopkins. He does know how to make music. And I wanted to change the music to listen to him. And I would like one of those tracks, these in-between tracks. I think this one is the one that I wanted. It was the beginning of when it dawned on him that there is something to actually bridge. And this was one of the first tracks where he started to be like, something's missing, I have a mission to produce that. And he was battling still with what was he actually battling with? The unclarity of it and the detail of it, because it is the process of becoming a man, the process of letting go of rebelhood and simple ideals, and how that transitions from that, which is very pure and very beautiful, into the actual happenings around us. That is that translation period, and where a man needs to learn how to do that or they fuck up life. And it is very important then to have a good authority that can explain to you, yes, your ideal is true, because that is what the rebel always fears. Like, we need to betray that ideal. And that is unacceptable. So at every step of the teaching process, you need to explain to him, no, the ideal is right, but it leads to this problematic situation. When we teach history, we do that. If you see how the plans are made, we look at all the points of disagreement between ideal and structure. And they went to war about these things, so we have records and figured it out. When they were like, yeah, but this was the right thing to fight for, and on the other side it came just the natural happenings. There are limited resources, and you need to teach this young man, okay, you are not mistaken, and don't try to do the fatherly thing and shut you down, but listen, like when you came into Germany, the order, the evil, blah, and like, oh wait, but it does provide you with this thing that's actually reasonable. And this process that you know quite well of being this is very good, bad, to, oh yeah, in this specific instance it is very good to have a structured approach to that. And then maybe this is a quite good one. So you need to teach the example situations of, yes, your ideal is true, and if you look at how it plays out, if people will fight for that ideal, this is the point where it ends, because it's not practical anymore. Usually because of scale. And then we have learned through conflict and war and actually playing it out in real life that the correct resolution is this compromise. So that is why we now do it initially in this way and have a rule, so that we don't have to fight this war again. But you need to explain it to him, because otherwise it's just like tons of fucking rules. Why would I do that? You do that so that your wife is not slayed in a conflict about that. That is why you fucking follow that rule. And if you don't teach a man in that period from another man, no, that rule is there because otherwise your loved ones get slain. Mm-hmm. And that is very simple to understand for a young man. Like, that's really a no-go. So he will follow the fucking rule. If you completely can explain how it led to that, which is a nice process because it keeps the information pure from propaganda. If it's always just like, yeah, okay, which ideal, how played it out, what was the end point. God, my mind is very scattered today.
The ideal? The
Sorry?
ideal?
Oh yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's important to have an authority figure of a man that this young man already respects, feels like, well, he has this shit figured out, and that the most important thing in this conversation for the teacher is to always be like, yes, your ideals are right. Mm-hmm. We do not betray them, but look at this thing. Okay, here is the rule. And then one by one, it's a very good idea to build up from pure ideals to the actual current system of government that we have in our country, so that he understands in his mind what the concept of Germany is. Because that is what we fucking do. We fight wars for our ideals, and if that fails, we write a rule. Like, okay, we don't need to fight that war again. That is actually how God had intended this thing to do. This is the correct mechanism of doing it. We build armies, we fight wars, we try to be better at that thing. And then we look at it and it's like, okay, God has judged, this is the way to do. Perfect. We write that down, we don't do it again. But if no one explains that to the young man, from that point on in life, he's completely fucked. Really completely fucked. And society doesn't correctly emphasize how important that formative period is, because from then on, either he will feel that law and structure and order is under his command and obey him as long as he does right. Because that is the thing that instills in him a correct education there. As long as you're aligned with truth, you don't need to worry, because the system is the natural way it progresses, and if you follow the rule, you are in alignment with what God has decided. So we need to explain to him how the current system of government has come to be, because he is constantly annoyed by it. I can't be loud because of the neighbors. I can't fuck that one. I don't like the neighboring city. Why can't we just like spray paint their fucking garden? And he's all like having his raw, untamed emotions, and they are fine. And that is always the problem. When he comes up, he perceives the German system as evil, because it prevents him from having fun, which is very understandable. And the good father at that point is like, listen, son, you're completely right, and for fuck's sake, what are they? And we will fuck them over. But here, we have figured out a better way of fucking them over. And here is how I can teach you how to better follow your ideas, even more so. Then you turn that fight into, oh, that's a very nice toolkit to do what I already want to. So you completely take away the whole arguing of the teenagers thing. A lot of these arguments are about that process. But if you preface that and would give them an explanation speech like this one, and be like, listen, son, this is sadly what has to happen when you become a man. This is how I intend to do it. Do you have questions or improvements? And then let's do that. I think that would be very fucking helpful. Yeah, so then he needs to come from his ideals to the realization, you know what, this state is to be trusted in, and that is the correct end emotion. He needs to have complete faith in the system that is not based on name or brand identity, but actual knowledge, because we did make an error in our thought in history. There is a toxic pattern where complete trust in authority, you can forget the part that we trust in it because we know, because that is actually the system of coming to truth yourself from a first-hand experience. What happened in the Second World War is we forgot that, and we thought authority in itself is a fine thing. And then they step by step took away, yeah, but we have this reasoning for it. And then suddenly you couldn't ask things like, yeah, but wait, if the Jewish people... Wait, is that a genetic thing now? Who is actually Aryan? They were all like, what? No, but the Führer says so. And in school, the German mind is like, yeah, but I can't ask a question anymore. That is weird. I never had that before. Always everyone was like, yeah, and here is this thing, and they did that. Well, not in this topic. It's always just like this thing. That confuses the German mind. And we didn't pick up on that problem to the point that we had to nearly kill the fucking world. And we did that. And we have learned now, as German people, that we need to be careful of that. And that is why we need to meticulously now teach our youth to actually understand the whole process, so that they don't have to rely on authority anymore and we don't have Hitler again. But they are clever now enough and evolved enough to be like, I know him to lead our country because I myself can follow the whole process of his thought. That's why I can trust. Not blindly, because I know every fucking thing, but he's just the man to execute it. I could be the man to execute it. We want every single citizen to be interchangeable and just execute the thing. No blind trust anymore, so that there is zero spot for toxicity and any kind of propaganda. It doesn't work, because you can always ask the question, what's the fucking thing? Who did that? What war? Or what argument? And you know. And if you can't ask that question anymore, you know, it's what we teach in 10th grade, that when you stop being able to ask questions about reason, that is a warning sign for the beginnings of totalitarianism. Whenever you hear like, yeah, but because he says so, instead of, yeah, but because we did it this way, you need to be all like, oh, the thing is trying to do the thing again. And it's tempting because it gives you votes of people easily, because they're all like riled up and it's like, oh yeah, that guy. And I hate this guy anyway. So we need to educate our public against these propaganda strategies that are currently very widespread. Yeah, but we did that mistake in the Second World War. We learned, and now that is why when you teach your son as a German father that does it well, you explain to him that whole thing, why it's necessary with the history, and then you do that. Wow, that was long. Why did I say that? Yeah, because Jon Hopkins, in his tracks, has this whole process of the emotions of the young idealist, realizing, holy shit, I am right. But in order to stick to those ideals, we need to create a fucking world. And then look up and it's like, and that is the world I live in. Perfect. Where is my job? And with that energy, I want the young man to then be like, into the workforce. For fuck's sake, yes, I was right. Rebelling against everything. And none of that needs to be shut down. All of that energy, please build fucking Germany.
Yes.
But the problem is, if you don't have a good father, the experience is whatever the fuck you want and know to be true. And you know, as a teenager, you feel it. You know what is true. And it is not what is out there. And if there is no one to translate, the emotional experience for him is, and no one fucking cares, and you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Every step of the way, because our system is built to perfection, it doesn't allow anything that just isn't that thing. But as a teenager, you don't know how to do that. You haven't been educated it. So it feels like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, follow the rules, follow the rules. But you never bother to read the fucking rules and understand why they are there. So you experience only, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, your ideas are wrong, you're a flawed person, get in line. It's horrible. But imagine the psyche that forms and how he enters the workforce. Every fucking morning feeling like, I need to do this because these giant evil corporations have enslaved humanity, and and there are tons of YouTube channels propagating this narrative that there's this giant conspiracy and blah. None of that fucking bullshit. The actual thing is you missed a good father, and that's just it. To explain that thing. No giant conspiracy necessary to explain that problem. But of course it gets you a lot of views. Yeah, so that is the difference if you have that authority figure in that period and not. And what Jon Hopkins tried to do in his track is this whole process of a father trying to be like, yes, but look the world. This look the world process is what he captured in his songs. And no one has done before. And I'm fucking proud of him. Because he did it very well. Where I, for the first time, felt that the giant enormity of that struggle was actually captured, and someone was like, I see you. I see what the fuck that was. And you built the world.
Can you show me?
Yes, I will now. I wanted to have this preface and then play you the track in a bit higher volume, because it's important to understand what he is doing, I think, because it's so important for our generation, I think. And of course, that's all only from hearing. I've never seen anything or spoken to him or read anything. So maybe I'm completely mistaken, and that's not at all what he wanted to do. And I don't know shit. But that is what I heard from his song. Which one will I choose? Now I feel pressured. Which one to choose? It's a bit low. This song in particular, for me, the transition between the Berlin party era of my life to recognizing there was value in it, but I need to leave that. The energy of that, the feelings. This is the fucking song for that. It's so great. Try to do something great, but what the fuck are we actually doing? Like the echoes of the party scene, you hear it. No one is really trying to. But it's just what we do. Vup, 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 vup. There's emptiness. Open. Or whatever the fuck. The way in which he introduces the new element. Listen to that. It's so... And then when he gets here and he's like, oh, this is what we're doing, then he warps it. It's like, no, I can do way more, fucking way more than you ever think. And now again, it's like, oh yeah, okay, that thing is what we do. This is the type of track it is. And whenever you are at the point of, oh yeah, okay, then he adds an element that is so outside of that conception that he just keeps you expanding the frame of reference. So what you're left with is a sense of, wow, everything is possible. And then he adds this one single spherical note. Everything is possible. And I choose this. The innocence of it, because you have portrayed that everything is possible, and I'm just another guy. It's the detail. God, the detail. Wonderful, very wonderful. I wanted to stop talking about him.
I don't have to. It's not really about him.
No?
No.